Hey, welcome back, America. Contradictions, episode 36. Apologies for taking so long between episodes. You know, we had a few things going on, family, school starting back up, everybody getting this live stream going on for our kids, the virtual learning, maybe even going back to school. We had sports starting back up. So kind of getting back to a normal schedule. We're still trying to figure things out, get back to our normal schedule, but we just wanted to come online tonight and kind of just go over a few things. Just to let you know that we're still here, man, and we do, we're gonna keep things rolling. So let me get my boys on the show. We got Kenny. How you doing, Kenny?
Not so good. My team lost.
Yeah, mine too.
Took that L.
Hail, bitch.
Hail, bitch. Yeah. Happy Sunday, everybody. Yeah. Hey, my team won. And it's funny because the Washington football team, they said the Eagles weren't going to know their name. I bet the Eagles know that ass now. The football team,
eight
baby.
Eight sacks, like 4 turnovers.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Guys coming at
They
you.
beat them boys down.
Hey, today's Sunday, so you're getting my dogs. You're getting the whole deal. We're streaming from my bed, and it is large and in charge.
Yeah, I hear that. Yes. Yeah. So, and like I was saying, we're just gonna do like a little, potpourri of things, trying to just go over a few topics, just spitball a little bit, just to show the audience that we're back. So let's dive right in. Let's just talk a little bit of Biden Trump. What do you guys got for me on Biden Trump?
Well, I'll go ahead and start. I'm going to say that I didn't see much of bump out of either the Republican or the Democrat conventions, and so to me it looks like Trump's behind. Now I think Trump is running the right kind of race. I think he's focusing on the swing states like he did last time. So we'll see if that moves the needle. But amidst all this negativity, I haven't seen much movement one way or the other. It looks like Biden might have caught a little bit of a bump just the last couple of days based on what I've seen. But again, that's nationally and not per the states. In the swing states, Trump has got a little bit of a bump. So my expectation at this point is, Trump's got a little bit of a hill to climb, but we'll see.
Yeah, I agree, but there's still a part of me because I talk to a lot of people. I talk to just a lot of Americans that unfortunately are planning on voting for Trump. So it just seems a little lopsided to me. The polls right now, they're actually saying that Biden is up 7.5 points. And just to kind of put some perspective on that, back in 2016, Hillary was up 2.5 points, and everybody thought that she was going to walk away with it. And obviously she didn't. So 7.5 points is almost triple that going into it. So I do think Trump does have a hill to climb. It's just kind of funny that a lot of people that I'm talking to say that they're voting for Trump. It's kind of crazy. The other thing is that Trump allegedly is having budget issues for his campaign. Now, of course, we all know that he can apparently go into his own bank account, his own wallet, and make some things happen there. And he has gone publicly and said that. But on the surface, looks like Joe Biden is killing him with his, as far as budgets, as far as ad spend, it's 3-1 right now. So Trump's got a little bit of a hill to climb for sure.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much hearing the same thing. I think it's going to be a landslide, to be honest. I don't trust the polls at all because most of the silent majority doesn't do polls. They don't answer the polls. So you're not
Trump's going to win in a landslide, or you think
he's going to win a landslide, and then what's going to cause an issue is the mail-in balloting, and that's what's going to be like, oh no, wait, we got to wait for the mail-in balloting, you can't, and then we're going to get, oh, see, we told you Trump wasn't going to leave. I'm gonna tell you, man, and that's the way I think it's going to end up.
Here's the problem that I believe one of the problems Trump's going to have that he didn't have the first time was that right now the establishment, and again, I know a lot of liberals that are liberal in name, really, but they don't follow politics. So they don't understand that for the most part, there's a lot of people that didn't like Trump that are Republicans. And those Republicans are the right wing of the Republican Party. They're the people that are pro-war. They're the establishment. He has went at them. He said in a speech not long ago that he was not for the increase in spending for the military moving forward. That's something that is very different. He is not for Halliburton and all those big-time Republican donors. And now that the first 4 years is over and he's trying to drain those things, he is going to lose when it comes to the advertising because he is not for, contrary to popular belief, he is not in the pocket of the rich. He's just not. And he's been outspoken about it. So he's going to have some trouble with that.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's going to be trouble to see what happens in November. I don't think we're going to get a clear-cut winner on November 3rd. I think we're going to get someone announced, and then there's going to be a whole lot of arguments afterwards.
Which that's very possible. Sorry, I had to mute Glenn. It was getting a lot of feedback on my end.
Yeah, I was too.
See if
he's coming back in. He'll be back in.
Yeah, but I'm nervous because I think there's so many people with false information out there, and it's being fed right now through the NFL. I mean, I just saw a guy talk about how the reason why people were booing, and I wanted to discuss that at some point tonight, is that people, they're saying that people are booing because they agree with racism or don't think that there's any issues there.
Is it my phone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. See if we can get that.
Yeah.
I don't have my headphones here.
Gotcha.
All good. All good. We'll work through it. No worries.
But in the actual diatribe that the guy was given, that said that he was like, oh, I'm so disappointed because so many people were booing, and they're booing because some people, the sad truth is they just don't want unity. And then even in that same statement, he goes, well, I mean, there are some that just don't want this intersecting with sports. Well, no, that is the group that's booing. The group that's booing, they want unity too. There's not a large segment of this society that does not want unity. That's just not true. To be honest with you, the Black Lives Matter movement that I've seen, not the fact that Black Lives Matter, but the movement that I've seen has nothing to do with unity. Nothing to do. They're only unified if you agree with everything they agree with, all their propaganda or all their politics. If you don't agree with their politics, they're not about you. See, the difference is on the side that I'm on, which is a lean right side, is that I'm a libertarian side of the right. So for me, I'm okay if you totally disagree with my politics. As long as you agree that slavery is never okay, that lynching is not okay, whether it's a black person or a white person. It wasn't right when it was done back then. It's not right when it's done today. The officers that got, barricaded from getting into a hospital, what are you trying to protect there? Who are you saving?
Right.
Doing that stuff is just obnoxious. The riots have gone nowhere good. You've got the white dude with the tattoo of Black Lives Matter on his neck. He shoots a guy for being a Trump supporter. And then he tries to say that somebody in a car ran by and shot with paintball guns. Now, I heard somebody did that, but it wasn't this. This dude's just walking up the street.
Right.
And those people that are, and it's funny because, the episode I was listening to the other day on this other far left liberal stage, because I watched this stuff to see what they're believing, right? See if there's any validity to it. And it's like, they're talking about the KKK. Like, I know a lot of people that I know that support Black Lives Matter and that have gone out. Now, I don't know the rioters, but I know people, the same funding mechanism. And yet the KKK, I don't know anybody in the KKK. I mean, the KKK is like a handful of rednecks somewhere. I
don't even know where.
Yeah, I don't know where either. And I'm sure that there is some group of racist rednecks somewhere.
Of course.
But it's just, I don't understand. You have Breonna Taylor on the back of people's helmets, and we've done a breakdown. The reality is she was involved with drug dealing. She got put in a terrible situation where she's in a hallway because they had a knock warrant. Like, this blows my mind. The whole reason she died, okay, now I guess there's a litany of reasons she died, but if they used a no-knock warrant, she would be alive.
Yeah, because she'd been in the bedroom. She
would have been alive. The knocking during the distribution of the warrant was the reason she died. And yet they made a law to stop no-knock warrants.
There he is.
There he is.
What?
He's back now.
Back. Is it not still
No,
popping?
you're good.
Are we?
No, you're good now.
So Glenn, one of the things I'm bringing up right now is that it baffles me. They still have Breonna Taylor on the back of people's helmets, and they're still sticking to this fact of we should be arresting police officers for what happened to Breonna Taylor. And my point about the Breonna Taylor is that not only is that situation something that it was an unfortunate situation that she died, but she was killed essentially by her drug dealing boyfriend and a guy taking a shot at the, again, it's not his fault because he thought that was her drug dealing boyfriend at the door kicking it in.
Right.
And yet we literally made laws now. They passed laws that don't allow no-knock warrants. And again, I'm not a big no-knock warrant fan, but she would be alive if they would have no-knocked that warrant. They no-knocked her boyfriend's house. Nobody died. So people's misinformation.
Well, that I think for that particular situation, just in terms of the no-knock, I think it's speculative. I mean, it's
which part is speculative?
It's speculative. Just because they did a no-knock on the drug dealing boyfriend and there was no murder or there was no deaths doesn't mean that if they would have no-knocked on Breonna Taylor, there would have been no deaths. Kenny was in there armed, so maybe they would have had a better chance.
He went and got his gun. They were both in bed.
That's what I'm saying. They were both in bed. So let's say somebody just randomly kicks in the door. You don't know if he was like light sleeper. It's all very speculative. You just can't say definitively that there wouldn't have been a death. I
agree with that, but when you have the percentage of no-knock warrants that end in gun deaths, and especially in this one, they specifically did the no-knock warrant. I want to say it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning or something.
It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, yeah.
Yeah, and it was very late, and they even said they were in bed, and so the time period that it took, because he said they were continually beating on the door. So it was not like they beat one time and then just blew it in. Like they were beating on the door. That's what all the, the stuff that we both read said. And so my point is, if they hit it in immediately, go in, but it's going to take you a second to kind of come to. And so, yes, I would admit I am speculating, but there is no doubt that the knocking definitely got her up, got her walking towards the door. And then she was in a hallway where when they finally blasted at the same time they're blasting in, he took a shot. And I said before, now I've heard that some more information is going to come out about the Kenny Walker stuff, but I have no problem with Kenny Walker taking that shot, saying that he believed it was them. Right. And according to his own video recordings and stuff that we both read, it seems like that's what he thought. So he thought it was them. He took the shot. I have no problem with that. I just don't understand how at this point we can still be saying arrest the police officers. It's
well, this is the thing, and so I will agree with you that I don't. And this is a very rare instance, but in this case, I do not think the police officers should be arrested. I think whoever was in charge of the entire case in general, somebody needs to be held accountable. I think it obviously wasn't carried out properly. We've talked about it on the show in the past. All of their intel, all of their recon sucked. The whole, and I mean, no-knock warrants are just a shady, they're just shady anyway. So, and if you do want to reprimand the police, you can reprimand them on the fact that they were technically supposed to be there on a no-knock warrant, and due to multiple not eyewitness accounts, but multiple witness accounts, they knocked. So they technically didn't follow the rules. So if you want to hold them accountable for that, I can understand that. But in terms of saying that they murdered Breonna Taylor, it gets sticky. I mean, like there's just way too much. I think Breonna Taylor was murdered. I want to be clear about that. I think Breonna Taylor was murdered, right? And do I really think that we're going to blame the cops that were given orders to just carry out their orders? I kind of think that the people that were giving the orders should be held accountable more so than the people carrying them out. But I do believe Breonna Taylor was murdered. I think she was murdered. I think we can classify it as a murder. She was murdered. Nothing like that should ever happen. Whether you did something wrong or not, nothing like that should ever happen.
I thought
But nobody should ever die in a car accident.
Fire. I mean, what are the cops supposed to do at that point? They don't fire back?
Yeah. Well, I don't see anything that the police. Now, if you want to talk, supposedly there was a police officer that shot him the other way. He didn't hit anybody. Okay. But he shot blindly in through one of the side windows and he was fired. So, which I think should have happened. Now, to me, maybe even, he should be charged with maybe reckless endangerment, something that, but he didn't hit anybody. But that's just because to me, I don't try to look at the end result. I think looking at the end result is kind of stupid. It's like if you're drinking and driving and you can barely keep your eyes on the road, I'm drinking and driving and somebody runs out in front of my car instead of yours. It doesn't matter that you're black. Doesn't matter that I'm white. Doesn't matter if the person that ran out is white or black. We both, me and you, we both did the same thing. Maybe you were even drunker than I was, but I hit a person, so I should spend life in jail and you shouldn't because you got lucky. That is the way that it is today. That's the way it is. And
hey, and I guess we've all benefited from that because we've all talked about it before as well too. Where I mean, let's be honest, who hasn't drank and drive or drank and taken a ride to McDonald's or something like that?
Correct.
We've all done it, and we've all quote unquote got lucky, as you put it. So
that's what I'm saying. So to me, if you have now, I think, and I've said this years ago, they should have those laws. Those laws should be the exact same. If you accidentally kill somebody drinking and driving, your penalty should be the exact same as somebody gets caught drinking and driving. At the end of the day, if you had that, then I would just Uber.
Yeah.
Okay? So the reason I don't do that is what are the odds of driving 9 miles? I'm not going to hit anybody.
Shut up. Sorry.
So I just think we use the word murder, and Jake just said it in the comments below. To me, there's no way she got murdered. I mean, if you want to talk about, if you want to stretch to murder, to me, the only person that murdered her was her boyfriend for having her in this drug ring and being involved.
Hey, that's an argument. Absolutely, that's an argument.
But I think even then,
I'm glad you said it. It is a stretch, but absolutely.
But I think that's a far shorter stretch than saying the police murdered her and we should get her killers, which is literally what these T-shirts and shirts and posters and all these things are saying. And nobody's telling the truth there. Nobody's coming out and going, "Hey, like you guys do know that she was involved in a drug ring. She wasn't an EMT. Why are we lying about that? She got kicked off being an EMT 4 years prior because she rented a car that a guy got his head blown off in when she had a car. She just happened to rent a car that had some dead body in it. And then she is like the farthest thing from like this innocent EMT. And it's like now all of a sudden, again, does she deserve to die for doing this? No, I don't believe she killed the person in the car. I believe based on the phone records that I can judge some character through those phone calls. And to me, she was trying to get out of it. And when I say that about as strictly as I say that anybody tries to get out of the drug game. If she wanted to, she was a grown-up. She could have got out of that. At no point did it seem like she was fearing for her life to get out of it. She was controlling the money for it. She liked controlling the money for it. And she got involved in something that sucks because of the situation. And if her boyfriend wasn't a gangster, this guy wouldn't have shot at the door. And according to her boyfriend and all those people, none of those people, as you read, they didn't blame the police. They blamed Kenny Walker. And Kenny Walker didn't blame the police. He blamed them. And so then now publicly, everybody wants to blame the police. And I'm like, dude, the police are coming here. They kick in the door. They think they're going to get drugs and guns and somebody shoots at them. All three of us, and actually every police officer I've talked to, all said they would have shot back. And yet we are still propagating this on national television like, when are we going to get Breonna Taylor's killers? It's like, what do you mean? When are we going to get him? Where's her boyfriend? Is he in jail? He certainly helped kill her.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be honest with you in terms of I don't think anybody's going to be arrested. I really don't think anybody's going to be arrested. I don't think people that want to see somebody held accountable, they're not going to get it. I don't think anybody's going to be held accountable. I don't think anyone's even going to be, as far as reprimanded. I just don't see it happening. And I'll be honest, she wasn't innocent. I mean, she wasn't. As much as I hate to say it, she wasn't. Did she deserve to die? No.
When you get involved in that lifestyle, there's only two ways out, right? So I mean,
I mean, there's
Well, I
three.
mean, some people have made it out.
There's three.
Yeah, some people have made it out.
I know some people, but it's
I know.
The longer you stay in, the longer you stay in, the more you're going to end up the one way out. So,
and we've talked about it before. First of all, we all know people who have been all three of the ways. There's people in jail we know, people that are dead we know, and people that got out that we know. Right? I mean, that's fair to say. All three of us know pretty personally. And so
personally, the same people
in the same group, right? Yeah. So we probably know. Yeah. So I mean, that is what we've seen, and it's like I never heard. Now the people that I know were not, shot by the police in kind of a misunderstanding. Unfortunately, most of them were killed by, unfortunately, other Black people. I mean, that's most of the people that I know, and so it went out that way. Lost you for a second, Glenn.
Am I here?
Yeah,
you got like a little icon up.
We can hear you. But
This is all funky. Hang on. I'm gonna jump back in.
Roger that. So what do you think about the Floyd case, Kenny? Didn't they just come out and they didn't get that murder one charge or something like that? I thought I saw the lawyer come out and say he wanted justice or some shit like that.
I'm not even, I mean, to me, the George Floyd case, and that's another one where they're bringing his family in again. It is unfortunate, but he really died of coming down off drugs. This guy, Derek Chauvin, I felt like should be charged with murder because he helped that to take place.
Yeah, and like we said on the show, murder one's not going to happen, and that the fact
murder one was never going to happen because
they're charging him with that, knowing that that's not going to get a conviction. God damn, man.
I know, and we talked about that before. I'm still a little surprised that I still believe that 90% of the nation doesn't know Tony Tippa's story. And I'm not saying Tony Tippa's story to say that all of a sudden this happened, that should mean it's okay for this person. No, I'm not. I think that
you're talking about the Tony Tippa story from down in Texas.
The guy that had the knee on his neck for 13 minutes.
Yeah, that had a mental issue.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the only thing there is that
it was 15. It was 15 minutes, wasn't it?
It was over
15 minutes.
It was like 13:40 or something like that.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and they were talking mad shit about him too. Now look, I talked to some police officers about that, and they said, look, there are times where you get somebody that's all effed up on drugs, and you're gonna make fun of them a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying it's professional. It's not saying you should do it, but it does happen.
I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I saw the video. It was horrific, just like the George Floyd video. Absolutely terrible. The difference is this guy actually called the police for help. He had a mental condition. He admitted to taking some cocaine, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And, he had some sort of a chemical imbalance or something. So he did have sense enough to call the police. And when they showed up, I guess, of course, they sedated him. He didn't seem like he was wild or out of control or anything, but they did want to, I guess, control him, if you will, for whatever reason. I don't know why. But next thing you know, he's on the ground, stomach first, with multiple knees in his back, with his hands behind his back. And you don't even have to have a knee on your neck in that position. If somebody's got any sort of compression on the back while your hands are behind your back, is going to definitely restrict oxygen flow. It's a very restrictive position to be in, and it's scary, especially if you're on drugs. And it's probably double or even triple scary if you're on drugs with a mental condition. So it was just sad. And I'll be honest with you. So Kenny, I know you had just mentioned that you had spoke to a few police about it, and some police officers say, hey, there's a lot of times where you run into people with drugs, and you're going to make fun of them a bit. And I can understand that. I'm still going to stick to the premise of you're a police officer. Therefore, you're expected to be held to a higher standard, especially when on duty and somebody's calling you to come out and provide a service. Because let's be honest, if that was your daughter or your son or mine, I'd be fucking pissed if they got a knee in his back and they're sitting there talking shit about him.
Oh yeah, and I'm definitely and I appreciate you bringing that up, because you're exactly right. The fact that he called the police, I mean, is bad. And again, we all agree the George Floyd thing was a tragedy that should not have happened. That just should not have happened. You cannot do that. But I think if we look at it the lens of the similarities between that and the Timpa case, then what we come up with is police needing to handle things when people are on drugs a different way. That seems like a clear. Yeah. There was actually just not long ago, the guy that had the spit bag put over his head, same thing. He exasperated out, not from the mask. Anybody that's ever had or learned what a spit mask is, it does not restrict your breathing, but it's the panic. It's the panic that ends up sending you when you're high into your organs start crushing and shutting down. And so these people are dying of this same thing. And we've got this focus that's this thin on racism. And it's like, well, hold on a second. Like, racism's real, but like, that's not racism. That's this issue. And we can do this issue, take care of this issue. And, and I understand if Black people say, hey, you know what? I don't trust you're going to come back to racism because you tailored away from it. But I think
I'm glad you said that.
But I think that there comes a point where it's hard because you do need to tailor away from a racism discussion at some point in terms of a society that hopes to move forward. And it's tough. It's like, how do you stop bringing up race all the time? Because then it always becomes racial. Or how do you keep to respecting that people are going to feel like, hey, hold on a second, let's not just forget that.
Well, this is the thing, and I think it's and sad to say, but there's a big difference between Black people and white people, because I'll be honest with you. I mean, and just for me, because of what we do, we run this podcast. We want to bring facts. We want to be as accurate as we possibly can. And even before this podcast, I mean, Kenny, you've been pretty vocally about, just politically and things like that. And then I have too. And that's why we started this whole thing. But I follow a lot of civil rights attorneys. I follow a lot of criminal injustice, like attorneys that specialize in criminal injustice. Mm-hmm. And it's just so much of it. And I think a lot of the Black community really knows how much of it is. And a lot of the white community only sees what happens on the news or what the news decides to show. And so I think that there's a bit of a disconnect there. And I think that's why Black people are so reluctant to want to steer away from the conversation of racism, because it's so prevalent.
Well, and my argument, so one of the guys that I know, actually he's a white guy. I don't know what he might.
It happens so much more than what I mean. Like
he's an attorney.
There's so much of it, man.
But see, that's where, and to me, I would go where, like, of course.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. You're going where, and honestly, and I could show you. I mean, I could send you. I mean, just look up Lee Merritt. Look up Lee Merritt's Instagram.
But I mean, I know who Lee Merritt is, and I see fake racism, and then I don't go back anymore. Like once I
so in terms of fake, so explain to me what your definition of fake racism is, because there is, and just to be clear, there is fake racism. I agree, but I don't really see a lot of it on Lee Merritt's page. So I just want some clarity.
So to me, fake racism to me is where I see a case and I go, because I always put myself in both positions. I go, okay, I'm gonna look at it from this side. I look at it from this side and I go, where's the evidence that this is race baited? This is based on this topic or this topic. I don't see where race even played a part. And it's like, no. You don't see it because, but it's there. It's just got to be there because and this isn't.
Okay, cool. So, all right. Okay, cool. So now I've got some clarity. So my interpretation of fake racism is when you see, how can I explain this? All right, so a lot of times you'll see somebody. Man, I just had it on the tip of my tongue, and I just lost my thought. So a lot of times what you'll actually see is you'll see somebody saying that or claiming that something is racist. Like for example, all right, so you'll see a white cop beating up a Black person, right? Mm-hmm. That was genuinely resisting arrest, right? Mm-hmm. So in the video, of course, it's triggering racism. But then come to find out, he did that to 4 white people the month prior. So is he really a racist, or is he just an asshole? That's fake racism to me, right? Because a lot of things nowadays, like a lot of these cops just have ego problems, and they treat everybody the same, white, black, and indifferent. Like they're assholes to everybody, especially if you challenge them in any sort of way or question them or anything like that. They're going to be an asshole to you because they have an ego.
I agree with you on that. When I try to look at it from both sides and I go, okay, I can come up with 10 reasons why this happened that don't have anything to do with race. I mean, at the end of the day, if I meet somebody, if I know somebody and they're a racist, right? Like, I want to be, I can go, I know for sure it's this. And this is the problem too, I think. And then I'll let you go ahead and continue. And I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt on both sides, on every side of it. I try to look at it and go, can I come up with an answer? And if I come up with the answer, it's racism, then I want to go, well, is there a history of it? Just like you said, if somebody beats up a black guy, did they beat up 10 before or did they not? Right? Because there are people out there that are racist. And I feel like I just don't believe there's the amount of hidden rate. I feel like you can figure out if somebody's racist or not. Like, and I know it sounds cliche, but if you
it just depends. So, like in the case of McMichael, Travis McMichael, the son, Travis McMichael. There was a lot of evidence. I mean, and I don't want to just say because he had a Confederate flag sticker on his truck, but I mean, he was dropping N-bombs on social media. I mean, they've gotten proof. There's written proof of his racism. I mean, people have came out, old classmates have came out and said that they're surprised it didn't happen sooner and things like that. So blatant racism, sure. You said there's not much hidden racism. I just tend to disagree just because of the line of work that I'm in. And I've talked about it before. I just see way too many black-owned properties being undervalued, being underappraised, and it's an issue. And there used to be a better checks and balances system with the Voting Rights Act being in place. And it's just not as efficient.
Here's the thing is, I guess I feel like if as a white person, if there was a hidden group of this underlying racism where like you're around all these white people and like, bro, when you go in to investigate this house, man.
No. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that kind of. I'm
not saying you're saying that. I'm saying that since I've never heard anything remotely like the most racist thing I've ever heard in my entire life is whether somebody should date a black person or not. Now, to me, I don't give a shit. But there's people that are black. I dated a black girl before who her parents were not okay with her dating a white guy. But I didn't feel like her parents were racist. I just felt like they were ignorant, if that makes sense. Like, I guess I just don't lump that in and go, oh, they're a terrible person, because I don't want to be judged because I'm a terrible person because I'm a Republican or because I'm this or because I'm that or because I'm a conservative, because I'm a libertarian, whatever the case may be. And I go, they're just ignorant, right?
And I'm glad you brought that up too, because never before, at least in our lifetime, has there been a situation like, I mean, look at other presidential races. Look at, even like Bush Clinton. That was probably the most famous race growing up as youngsters. The Bush Clinton race. It was never like such a dichotomy. Like now it's like, oh, you like Biden, oh, you're leftist liberal, you're dummy, you're soft socialist. Oh, you like Trump, you're racist. It was never, oh, you like Clinton, oh, you adulterous, this, that, oh, you like Bush, you racist, oil mining, capitalist, like.
Well, I think, what's funny is because I've been involved in politics for so long, I do remember that. The difference is
it was never like nowadays somebody's political. I feel like nowadays somebody's political ideology almost identifies their character to some people, and it's just not right. That.
But the reason that is because most people, I honestly believe this. I mean, I went on one of the Ventilators' other shows the other day, and again, they're just calling me a racist.
Yeah, I saw
all this other stuff. But this one dude got so triggered he jumped off the call. It was hilarious. But here's the deal, right? Like at the end of the day, most people don't really know what they're talking about on both sides. And I sat there on Veterans Day of last year, and I was basically arguing with the Trump supporter because he had no idea what he was talking about. None. He watched Fox News for an hour a night and thinks he's educated. And that guy bothers me every bit as much as the person that saw 15 memes that says Donald Trump is a molesting rapist, right? Like, I had somebody tell me, well, look at this young girl he was dating. They sent me a picture of him and his daughter. I'm like, dude, that's his daughter. Like, what are you talking about? Like, how do you not know what his daughter looks like? Well, you're okay with her sitting on his lap? I'm like, my daughter sit on my lap, dude. Like, look, you got to ask her. She's a grown-up. Ask her, dude, did your dad molest you? I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be that tight with him. That's just my thought, you know? If somebody molested me, like, we're not going to be close. There's a line that you can cross, you know? And so most people see a meme on social media that they like to go to, right? So you go to your Twitter feed, which is all stacked the same way. Mine is too. I'm just crazy. I like to go on other people's, and they think I'm trolling. I always get called a troll. I'm like, no, I actually want to hear good debatable points. So if Glenn brings up one that you're saying, then, you know, because I want a good argument. When somebody tells me, well, you can't not be racist if you're not with this big white supremacy group of base Trump supporters. I'm like, think about this for a second. I've heard the base of the Trump party is racist. You know, that's like 100 million racists. Like, that is not accurate. I mean, just like the base of Biden.
I'll tell you one thing about Trump.
Go ahead.
I know you've claimed several times in the past that, you know, he's denounced racism and things like that. He's not clear enough. He doesn't do a good enough job of it. If this many people in the country that I ran thought I was a racist, I mean, we're talking like 50% of people think Trump's a racist.
I don't really believe
that's not his fault.
It's a lot. A lot of people look. Trump. A lot of people feel that way, right? A lot of people feel that way. I'm not saying he is. A lot of people think that way. Me personally, I think that Trump is not aware of a lot of
50% of people. I mean, there's no way that number could be accurate. You might say 50% of black people, but not 50% of your average people, because even people that don't like him.
No, I would say it's more like 85% of black people.
That can't really be true, because there are people that don't want to vote for him that don't think he's racist. Does that make sense? Like,
sure. And there's 12% that want to vote for him.
Right.
So
you're probably,
it could be about 85%.
85 is a stretch. I'll give you 80.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, that goes back to me, in my opinion, that goes back to you have 20% of people that are watching politics, and the other ones are just getting their information. So they're on the thing and they see Trump is racist, Trump is racist, Trump is racist. Just like you didn't even know that when we first talked, that video that he did was cut up. I don't know if you've seen this. I don't know if you saw this, Fred. Trump's got an ad. It is fantastic. It literally has Joe Biden say, Trump has never denounced racism. And then it has Trump's whole thing that he said. He says, well, he never called out the KKK.
Send me that.
Okay.
Please, send me that. Because again, he's not clear enough to me. Well, I would be talking about it so I would be trying to do any and everything to make people not believe that
ad.
I'm looking for it now.
Okay, because the ad was like, I was watching, you know, and everybody goes, oh, you must watch Fox News. Now, look, I've been very clear on this. I watch Tucker.
I watch it all.
I watch Tucker, okay? I watch some snips, and actually I even watch Tucker on this, but I don't really watch much right-wing stuff because...
Yeah, Tucker Carlson is every right-winger's best friend, I feel like. Every right-winger...
No,
because you're going to seem way too right if you're like, oh, I love Laura Ingraham.
Well, hold on. No. He is not right wing. Like
he does a good job of stating
very, very libertarian
right wing talking points. He's clever. I'll give him that. He's clever.
Tucker will call out. He's called out many Republicans. You won't.
He's even called out Trump at times. I'll give him that.
You won't see Laura Ingraham call out. I mean, I'm talking about Mitch McConnell. I'm talking about Lindsey Graham. I'm talking about the chick from South Carolina that spoke at the RNC. I mean, he calls out a lot of Republicans because he's very anti-war. And as you know, over the last 10 years, a lot of people switched their stance on that, right? That was the Democrats running thing for 30 years. Democrats have only for the last 4 years all of a sudden been pro-war, been pro-interventionist, been pro not pulling people back. That's just since, but Donald Trump was anti-war for 20 years, and so was Tucker Carlson, which was very different than all the war hawks in the Republican Party, different than the Mitt Romneys and Bushes and all those people. So Tucker was never with them. So to say he's the right wing of the Republican Party, it's like that. Now you can say he's on the Christian right because he does have a Christian, moralistic view of certain things. But
let me ask you a quick question. I don't want to get stuck talking about Tucker Carlson's ass. But just to kind of go back to the Trump racism thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is a fact, and I'm sure you're probably aware of this. Most people aren't, but I just want to get your thoughts on it. In 1979, Trump, he was clearly very younger than he is now, still an adult. He worked with his dad, Donald Trump, and they owned several buildings in New York City. The company, the Trump name, they were actually sued. They were sued for housing discrimination in 1979. I'm sure you're aware of that. And they settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. It was in the millions, but they were being charged federally with housing discrimination, and they were caught red-handed discriminating to African Americans, not letting them live in their buildings. So people that do know that, especially blacks, I mean, if you could argue that that's Trump's dad and not him, but I mean, it's just little things like that don't really sit well with black people.
Consistent on that. See, here's the, and this is where, when it comes to racism, I just look at things from a standpoint of every time that it over proportionally hurts black people doesn't necessarily make it racist. So when you own a building, to have those units used, which this was the discriminating argument, was that they were basically trying to push people who were not qualified. They were trying to, so
that's what they always say, but that's actually not the truth.
No. I understand that's what they always say, but that's actually real. Like, that's real.
I mean,
it might bother people, and yes.
No, let me tell you something.
They can make up.
And you can look this up. The FBI did a sting operation in 1979. Where they sent in 4 African-American couples, and every one of them were told that there were not apartments available. And then they sent in 4 Caucasian couples, and the floodgates were open, at which point they were charged federally.
Same credit score. If you bring that on, I will put it up on here. I will totally denounce it. If you show that there was 4 black people and 4 white people, same credit score, same everything, then all day long. That is not what I saw at all when I did the research on it. Now, I didn't see any FBI notations, but this was not a right wing. I always listen to the left when they're talking about this. And the argument was that he was not allowing black people into the homes in terms of, because the over proportional amount of people in his buildings were white. They had black people in those buildings. So it was not a black white thing. It wasn't like they had all whites and they were like, blacks keep out. It was they wanted certain subsidized housing within the hotels, and they didn't want that, and they didn't feel like they should have to do it. Then when they got
so like you just told me, if you can put something up on the screen, or if you can show me, or if you can prove to me where these black people that were coming and applying for these places to live weren't qualified, I'll totally denounce the whole thing. I don't think when the federal government charges you, it's an open and shut case. That's why they have an 85% conviction rate, because when they come for you, they've done their homework, bro. They've done a lot of times more than a year's worth of investigation before they even charge you.
But the default for me is not racism. The default.
If you rent to white but don't rent to black on the basis.
Say it again. Sorry.
I mean, if you rent to one race and don't rent to another, and then of course you're gonna use the excuse that they weren't qualified or whatever. Of course, like you're not gonna blatantly say, oh well, they were black.
Well, you're not gonna say, oh, you're just blaming it on race. I mean, if you're suing somebody, you're trying to get money. So of course that person would be like, oh, it's just race. Pay no attention to the fact that their credit score is in a 700 or the 500s compared to the 700s. Like, you wouldn't say that. If Now, I will.
No, if it was a credit issue and you were being charged, you would show and prove that it was based on credit and not race.
We go through that all
that's
the time
never
with
been done.
redlining. With redlining,
That's why they settled out of court.
Always try to say that a redlining only had to do with race. They won't acknowledge the fact that it was bankers being stung, where bankers were like, we're terrified of not being able to get money, and then it had to do with circling the credit.
Yes, they circled certain areas that they deemed to be of high value, right? That they wanted to rent to certain people that they felt were going to be guaranteed. I mean, it's proven, it's on the books. There's so many blacks that have the same, and a lot of times even higher credit than whites that weren't allowed to access those funds, that were denied credit, that were denied loans. That's been proven.
Correct. There was whites that had the same thing, and that's because the red line was not about white black. It was about credit scores. Now, yes, when they circled it, the people that were outside that area could have had higher credit scores. I don't disagree with that, but that, again, was not inherently based on race. Now, again, I don't have any problem with looking at it and going, hey, we're over proportionally hurting black Americans. How can we not do this? Which is the same thing that Trump did with the 3 strikes.
And when we talk about stuff like that, I think that that's almost a form of reparations, because I want to clear this up for a lot of people. People think that when blacks talk about reparations, we think that the government should just cut us a check or something like that. That's not what it's about. It's about systemically.
Yeah.
There's a lot of black people that do feel that way.
No. Well, not any that have done their homework.
The Black Lives Matter thing that they handed out, it said that.
Okay, well, look, Black Lives Matter is a crock of shit. If you actually go on their front page and read, I mean, we've done it. We've dissected Black Lives Matter. You know what I'm saying?
I don't like.
I'm talking about. I'm talking about a black person that wants more liberties for all, that wants equal opportunity for all.
I'm good.
I'm talking about that person. I'm not talking about the protester, the Black Lives Matter movement, because that is totally turned into something else, right? I mean, they're against the nuclear family. There's nothing on the Black Lives Matter website that promotes fatherhood, men. We need to be talking about all that. So, I mean, it's not, and I don't want to bring up the fact that it's ran by, a lesbian woman. It doesn't matter, but if that lesbian woman created,
she may not believe in the nuclear family that way.
Well, exactly, and I think that's why she doesn't believe in the nuclear family. And there's just a lot of issues there. So, and we've talked about it. But
so let me just pause you real quick. So I agree with everything you just said, and I actually have no problem. Like, I think we do. That's the discussion that we do need to have, right? We do need to have the discussion that goes, hey, based on what we've been doing, okay, these things are overwhelmingly hurting a certain people of a certain demographic. I'm totally like, and to be fair, I think there's a part of me that when somebody wants to stomp on it and go, well, see, that's just racism, and it's like, it's hard because
I agree with you there. I agree with you there, because a lot of things, like when you see it and it's on the surface and it's triggering, and I think, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the black community just wants to jump to racism all of a sudden. And in this day and age, it's just not always the case. Like George Floyd, I'm not George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, I kind of feel like that's a different situation. I almost feel like that's an open and shut racism. I think that's almost an entire community of bigots. But for certainly the McMichaels for sure, and that's been proven. So, but it's a case by case
neighborhood, because what if I have family that lived in that neighborhood? Like, but I agree. And let me get this in, and then I know Fred wants to bring up a comment we'll discuss. But I actually think that, first of all, I think you're dead on right, Glennon. I think that that's the discussion that we need to have. And I think that people would have it more if we didn't want to create the good guys versus the bad guys. If we just said, hey, look, these are things that are issues. So how can we solve them so it is more fair to everybody? So that the people because at the end of the day, we want the people in the, again, I have a hard time believing we're ever going to help the lowest of the low, just like we're not going to hurt the highest of the high. That's just the world according to Kenny. But the lower middle, like, I want to see those people come up. I want to see those people get loans. I want to see those people get opportunities. I think the government gives so much money to the bottom tier that they like ignore this lower middle. It's like trying
That's
to
like
get
really working really hard and doing all the right things. Yeah, I agree.
And
I
because
agree.
now I have blinders on because I came from the lower middle, and we all three saw people at the lower going, fuck this, I'll do whatever, and then we saw people above us kick their feet up and go, my mommy and daddy gonna make sure I get to Harvard, and they're gonna teach me how to do this, and they're gonna teach me how to do that, and they're gonna teach me how to do this. And then I'm like, man, damn, I wish I had some chance, and it's like, it took me a long time to learn this stuff. And I want to see us come together. And I think that's where we can come together instead of just always because once you make it about race.
Oh, I agree. I'm kind of over the whole race thing. I don't believe everything is race based. At this point, you really kind of got to prove it to me. But I do think a lot of people are quick to just jump onto race. But I understand it. It's very triggering.
Yes,
and with this country's history, this country's history and police brutality, the history of police brutality, it's very understandable as to why people jump to the race thing automatically. It's tough, but I'm over it too. I think we need to start looking toward solutions, legislation, or the lack thereof legislation, right? If we really are talking about defunding police, then we need to get rid of some laws too.
The time for talk is over. There's a lot of people just virtual signaling, talking, and not doing a damn thing other than running off at the sock.
Dude, the Dolphins got a bad rap for, now, full disclosure, Dolphins fan, and it's so sad that both sides were critical of their message. And I actually thought their message was the best one in the whole NFL. Their message was no more talking.
I love the Dolphins.
Come out because we don't care if you're Republican, you're Democrat. We don't care if you're left or right or this or that, the president or the competitor. All we care about is that now we're at a point where solutions come out. Now, I'm going to tell you, I do have a problem where I think it was the NFL morning crew, Kyle Brandt, who's a white man.
I saw that.
Yeah, and him and Nate Burleson are like saying they can't believe they would just do that. And it's like, bro, Nate Burleson was a millionaire. Like, you're only trying to – he's like, well, who's he trying to talk to? They should have been more specific. No, you want him to be specific because you want it to be one side. The whole point of what they did was exactly what you're just saying, Glennon. We just need solutions. Like, screw you're a bad guy, you're a bad guy. No, you're a bad guy, you're a bad guy. That's all election stuff. That's all that is. You're racist, you're not racist. You're this, you're not that. You're sexist. That's all political stuff. Take that out. You want solutions? Then, let's come up with solutions. Like, we can come up with the no choke holds. We can come up with, what do we do when a guy's on drugs and we don't want him to get killed by getting held down? When a police officer goes above and beyond, how can we hold him accountable? And that's the stuff that I wish Donald Trump would do. And I do think that does. There
needs to be more mental screening for police officers. It needs to be a longer process. I know some people talked about a 4-year degree and things like that. I'm not against that. I just think it's going to be a long haul to become a police officer. And if it does begin to,
we got to get over this stigma that you can't go see a psychiatrist without getting some kind of label put to your name. You go to a physical therapist. You see your doctor at least once a year. You should at least go see a psychiatrist at least once every 6 months because you hold shit in. You don't tell people everything. You don't tell
guys.
Especially guys.
I agree. And there's just a lot of police officers with egos. I think they need to work that out, man. Like they do.
At least once a month. Because they're seeing shit that we can't even fathom. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
It's
way on them.
It is very difficult, I think, for a police officer, especially if you're a white guy working in a predominantly black area, to not all of a sudden, and even a black cop in a black area, because I talked to 2 of them that were kind of saying exactly what I'm saying. You start seeing this, it's almost like, when you throw a football as a quarterback, eventually you don't even think about it. You just see the target, you throw it, right?
Right.
Certain habit they get into where they do assume people are guilty because they've seen it so much. Like all the Breonna Taylor stuff that I was like trying to give them the benefit of the doubt on. When I read all the stuff, it was pretty much exactly what the cops were saying that it was. I mean, there was drugs going on. They had, it's like, it sucks because there are times where it's not right. And actually, not long ago, I'll tell you guys this story real quick because this just happened to a good buddy of mine, right? He's a black dude. And he's down here. He actually does all the photography for the youth group that I work with down here. And he was hot. He was on Facebook the other day. He went up to where he's from, which is Turner County. He went to the gas station, got something out of the store, comes out, and this black police officer, and I was glad that he said that he was black. And it's sad that I got to think that way. Like, good thing he wasn't white, because this guy comes out with his gun drawn on my buddy. My buddy's like, what the fuck? Dude's like, let me get your ID. Gives him his ID. Wasn't the guy they thought he was, or whatever the case may be. They end up letting him go. So his angle, right? He's not from the same political leaning I am. But his thing is like, what the is going on with the police? Now, as a libertarian, we've talked about this before. I don't like cops going in and asking for your stuff like that. Like,
they can't just do that shit. I don't like that. You can't just draw your weapon on somebody and then demand their papers like they're goddamn Gestapo.
Right.
I don't care if you're looking for somebody. You can't just stop anybody and your excuse is that you're looking for somebody. Like, well, fuck you. Like,
and that's exactly And that's exactly what I told him. I'm like, look, just so you know, even though, because I think he knows, I don't think he's seen the show. I think he knows I do it. And I'm like, just so you know, like, I know you know I'm a Trump guy, whatever, but I'm like, I hope you know, like, I'm not okay with that. I'm not okay with a police officer. Now, if he would have had his gun down and been like, hey, man, we're looking for somebody. Like, look, do you have any ID on you? You don't have to give it to me, but I'd appreciate you give it to me. We're looking for
that's something totally different. Right.
Then you go, then you're asking. But yeah, I don't think you're the damn mafia. You don't have the right to go put a gun in my face and tell me to ask who I am. Who are you? Like, right. Because you got a cop outfit on? Is that what we're doing? Like, I just and people go, well, if you have, and I know the right says this all the time. And this is where people go, you're not right. And I'm like, I'm not on that right. Like, I am not okay with going, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you should know. No,
there's something called GP for a reason. General principle.
You have got to have some sort of evidence, some kind of something. That,
you can't just do that to people. If we allow cops to start doing that, it's going to be the wild, wild west out here. They'll be coming up with any and every excuse to just be pulling guns on people.
Well, that's what I actually think is happening.
Stop and frisk, pretty much.
And I think when you start doing that, and to me, I'm a little different than some people on the right, where I'll even say that, to me, I don't care if it helps with crime. I don't care if crime goes down and that's what we're doing. That's not the right thing to do. I am not okay with giving up freedoms in an effort to be somehow more safe. Like, I remember, I think it was Ben Franklin that said, something about not giving up liberty in the name of safety, because that's how you lose your liberty, or that's how you lose both. And that is just, I'm not okay with somebody walking through your house to try to find. I just don't trust that. I don't want more policing. I want less policing. I want stricter laws on the serious crimes. But
hey, before we go and getting our 5-minute warning and closing statements and stuff. Hey, COVID, is it still around? I mean,
well, I'll tell you this: in Maryland, and Fred, you're in Maryland, you can tell me, but I kind of got into an argument with my ex the other day because she's a nurse and she's trying to tell my girls, oh, there's gonna be the second. Dude, it's like 6 people a day die. Now, it's not that I don't care about those 6 people, but those 6 people are like 80 years old, have multiple conditions. You're at 6 deaths a day. Like, there's just as many people dying from a million other things. Like,
suicide's going crazy in the young adult right now.
It's been at between 10 and 6 for like the last 3 months. So it's like, what do you think is going to happen? Like, they opened schools in Georgia. There's been no spikes.
Yeah.
None.
You posted that article the other day, like over 1,000 high school football games and not one case.
And there are some, I did meet some people who had kids that got it. I haven't met a single one. And I'm not saying that a single one doesn't exist. Let's be honest. There's a person that gets struck by lightning. Okay. Sure. There's a kid that gets hit by shit coming out of an airplane. I remember reading that one time, right? It happens. But the odds, like the kids, I haven't personally met one who's even had to be hospitalized. Not one. Like, the biggest thing I've heard was like, headache, cough. That's it. kids
symptoms, but you
and
know,
I'm
there's
telling
been
you,
6 positive cases at my son's school.
okay.
And hey, hon, how many was there a positive teacher at Noah's school?
They do it every week. So I know in the county they do, like, they give us an update every week. So the county this past week, I think there was only like 3 teachers and 6 students. The week prior, there was only 1 positive student, but there were hundreds that were sent home for quarantine. No teacher.
So that happened.
They've been sending them home whenever they
just so
find
you
a
know, I don't
positive
know if you
case.
guys, because I know you guys are in Alabama.
Yeah.
They quarantined half the football players from Valdosta because somebody got it, but nobody hospitalized.
Right.
They were all at my son's game, so I don't hope I'm not outing anybody here, but they were not quarantining.
That's how
Be real.
here too.
Kids,
Yeah, it's the same way here.
They send the kids home and act like the kids are in their house. They're still gonna go out.
Yeah.
They've still been playing games. My son's been wrestling. He's been going to tournaments and stuff. It's been fine. And people haven't even, I'll be honest, people haven't even been wearing masks in the tournaments. My daughter had a gymnastics competition today. We went to the gymnastics competition earlier. And look, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't wear my mask. I don't like the mask. And if they're not being a dick about it, you don't have to wear it. And this is the other thing, too, that people don't understand and realize is that it's not a law. Like in some states, it's a mandate. And what that means is that if a store requires you to put it on, you have to put it on. But you can't get a fine, you can't get a ticket, you can't go to jail. It's not a law. It's a mandate. People don't understand that. There's a lot of like rumors and speculation, things like that that's going on. A store can kick you out, but that's about it. That's about it. So I haven't been wearing mine. I don't wear mine.
It's just crazy now. The election's coming up in a couple months. That the story of COVID's kind of falling back.
Well, I will say this as well.
I think that's what Trump wants.
I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but Sweden, which didn't shut down at all, now has better death rates than America does, better than a lot of countries that shut down. So it's interesting. When I look at Georgia's numbers against Maryland, Maryland had a far longer, more comprehensive shutdown, more mask mandates. And if you look at the amount of people per million that have died, less in Georgia. Georgia's actually below the country's average. So there's a lot of things that go into it. But Maryland's 12. I think Georgia's like 18th in that ranking in terms of not being good. So, you know, and people are like, oh, Georgia's numbers are terrible. But you look at the total number, and Georgia's got a big population. And Georgia's actually, I think, the second biggest or maybe even the biggest African-American population state in the entire nation.
They are now, yeah. It was DC, if I'm not mistaken, at one point. It actually was DC.
Percentage-wise?
Yeah, percentage-wise. It's Atlanta now. Georgia.
And so I just found that fascinating because when you look at the average number of people, the numbers for America are good, and they're better than people that shut down. And Georgia, that didn't shut down much at all, are much better than most states. Not if you look like total deaths, but again, if you look at deaths per million population, just so you know, Maryland's 12th, Georgia's 15th. There you go. We're at 596. Maryland's at 635, which again is close. But look what the amount of businesses that you shut down in Maryland. Like, holy! Right. I mean, was it really worth it? And then we'll find out the suicide numbers down the road, but they're not good.
Well, they haven't been good just since March. They're up like a lot. I don't know the actual percentage number, but I know that they're up. So it hasn't been good just since March. I'll be anxious to see what they look like come the end of the year for sure. Yep.
And America's now at about 700 deaths, which is the lowest that they've been at since.
Well, it all disappeared on November.
Since it all started.
Yeah, Maryland's at its lowest number since fucking March, and they're talking about re-shutting down.
Dude, with Anne Arundel County, the governor came out and said, hey, we can all go to phase 3. Anne Arundel County said, no, we're going to stay right here too.
It's crazy.
Dude.
Crazy. They don't want people to make money. They don't want people to work.
Well, no.
How many days to flatten the curve? How many days was it supposed to be?
Yeah, that's so funny. It's supposed to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve, right? 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
I think it just took a month's worth of riots, protest. That took care of it good.
None of them catch it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody that was rioting or protesting caught it, right?
No.
You know what I found was interesting is if you look at it, it was very flat in cases in America from March 14th to June 20th. Now, the death rate did spike in that time because of New York, right? But we've had way more cases the last 3 months than we had the first 3 months. More cases, way more, but way less deaths, way less, which is good because it means that we're learning, what the heck we're doing. I mean, we were at a point where we were having 2,000 people die a day. We haven't scaled that number since, way back in April.
Yeah.
Hey, well, they're talking about having a vaccine by probably mid-November. You going to take it?
Nope.
No.
Not if they don't.
Fuck no.
First of all, I'm not a.
My wife's in the background like, hell no.
I don't want to try it.
I'm not giving it to her or my kids.
I am not a test dummy. I say we give it to all of our politicians.
Yeah.
Hey, I say Trump take it with the hydrochloroquine. See how that works out. Let me holler at me.
Trump can do that as long as Biden, Pelosi, hey,
Schumer.
Hey, look, I actually think we should get all the Congress, and anybody that votes for mandating it has to take it right then.
Yeah, no.
That's fair. You want it mandated, then you do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You take it.
And not only you take it, everyone has to bring their families in.
Yeah, you got to take it and you got to bring your families in. Yeah,
Yep.
I agree with that.
You
I love
vaccinate your whole family, you can vote yes.
Yep.
You don't vaccinate your whole family, you cannot vote yes. You'd see people like, well,
I was going to, but
and I know we're wrapping this thing up, putting a bow on it, but eventually we got to talk about this. There's certain things that we can all agree on. Trump had came out with, cutting down term limits. I think that's going to hurt in terms. I love it, but I think it's going to hurt with some Republicans out there and some Democrats. I think it's, going against the establishment is going to be tough there. But they need to do that, and they need to get rid of the amnesty that these pieces of shit have, where they can, get the inside tax information. There's a Republican running down here. I don't know anything about him except for I know he made $13 million when the stock dropped, and I'm not voting for him just because of that. I don't care if he's Republican or not. I just won't vote. If I don't know a guy, I won't vote for him. But we have got to stop having Congress have a different set of rules. They shouldn't be able to opt out. They were able to opt out of Obamacare with no penalty. That's bull crap, man. They got to stop setting rules.
We're going to pass laws that make us to do something. Then it has to be for them too.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap this.
Go ahead first.
Yeah, I think he froze on us. Why don't you go ahead and wrap some stuff up here, Ken?
Okay. Hey, first of all, thanks everybody for coming and visiting with us. We're going to be more regular now. We're still trying to, give us another week or so. We're trying to figure this thing out in terms of what days work best for us. We appreciate you guys visiting. Please like, share, and subscribe. We're going to continue to have the tough conversations that people aren't willing to have without pointing fingers and trying to come to solutions as opposed to just creating more problems. I appreciate everybody coming out. I know you could be watching football. We're watching it on, I have it up in the background here. And so just for those of you who don't know, Rams are up 20-14 over the Cowgirls. But I just appreciate you guys and look forward to being there. And one more thing I'm going to say is make sure, look, I like the NFL. I like the Dolphins. I'm not going to get all caught up on whether I do or don't like this. I like it, so I'm going to support it. And if you like it, support it. If you don't like it, don't support it. But I appreciate y'all coming out tonight. Love you guys.
Glenn, are you back, bud? There you are.
Yes, sir. I am back.
All right, go ahead and wrap us up, Glenn. What you got, man?
Oh, man. Hey, we had some tough technical difficulties tonight, but that's cool. Hey, guys, thanks for joining in with us this evening. Happy Sunday. I hope everybody had a great weekend. My Redskins won, or the football team. I bet the Eagles know that name now. And, look forward to talking some more politics as usual. We're going to get to the schedule. We're trying to figure things out. as we're kicking back into full swing the sports and school, and there's just a lot going on. I got a lot of kids, same as Kenny, so we will be hopping on. As of right now, it's going to be kind of sporadic, but we will eventually get back to the regular Monday, Wednesday, Friday programming. But again, thanks for jumping on with us tonight. Thanks for all the comments, and look forward to seeing you guys this week.
Yeah, so like both my partners said here, hey, look, listen, man, Kenny's got a basketball team, Glenn's got a basketball team, and I'm one man short. So, there's a lot going on. So, being family and with sports and school and kicking back in, it takes a toll on us. But hey, look, we're gonna keep bringing the fire. Just bear with us. We'll put up updates on our page so everybody knows. And again, if you want to have a topic discussed on our show, email us, chat with us, IM us. Do whatever. I mean, we're willing to talk about whatever you want to be, what you want heard. Like Kenny said, we're glad you all tuned in. We missed 9/11, so just shout out to all those people in New York that gave the ultimate sacrifice. We love you. Much love out there. And there's a lot of stuff about, hey, whether that was government run. Don't get caught up on that. Just for that day, love the people that paid the ultimate sacrifice. All right, and that's all I got. Like Glenn said, we'll get back to that full schedule, but pay attention to our Facebook page. We'll let you know when we're coming out. We love y'all. We'll see you again, and just stay tuned for the next one, man. Much love.